Welcome to Civics Lesson 2. Why do we need government? So in this video, you guys are going to focus on two objectives. First one is, what is John Locke's philosophy? And the second, how did it influence our founding fathers? So, first thing we got to talk about is this guy, John Locke, okay, and who he is. John Locke was an English philosopher, and he published a book called Two Treatises of Government. And in this book, he imagined what it would be like to live in a state of nature. But not this kind of nature, not wilderness, not living in a forest. He was thinking about a different state of nature, a place where there is no government and no laws. That's the type of state of nature that John Locke was thinking about. And when he wrote this book and he was imagining this place with a state of nature, he came up with some questions. Okay, some of his questions were, do people just care about themselves, or do people act in the interest of others? Do people need government? What is the reason to have a government? What's the main purpose? What type of government is good government? And when Locke came up with answers, okay, his answers influenced our founders. Okay? It influenced the Declaration of Independence, which we will read. It influenced state constitutions, which we will read. And also our Constitution that is still in place now was also influenced by John Locke and his ideas. Okay. So, how did this state of nature look? Well, John Locke said that in this state of nature, people have a few rights. Among those rights, the first one is the right to life, which means people want to survive and be safe from any other threats to their life. Second one is liberty, and some of these might sound familiar to you. Does people want to be free? Free to make their own decisions, free to live how they want. And the third is property. Okay. And by property, he says people want to own things that are necessary to survive. All right, so if you think of things that are necessary to survive, we think of food, we think of a house, okay, that kind of thing. So he says, in a state of nature, people have 3 rights. And those rights that people look to keep are life, liberty, and property. Okay. Make sure you guys copy these rights down. And he says these rights are natural rights, meaning they were based on nature, and that everyone had these rights. All right, and the idea that we had natural rights can be seen in our founding fathers. So when we read those documents I told you about before, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, we'll see how this idea influenced our founders. So next, what might the state of nature look like and what might happen? Well, Locke believed that most people are fairly good and they'll respect the rights of others. All right, but people are driven by self-interest. And sometimes people who are stronger abuse those who are not as strong. Okay, that's what Locke says. He says, in a state of nature, we must protect our own rights. So people use their skills and their strength to protect their rights. All right, but people who are less skilled will find it difficult to protect their rights. Sorry about that sloppy handwriting. All right, but less skilled will find it difficult to protect their rights. And therefore, okay, they will join together, people who are less skilled. They will join together against those who are strong. Okay. So that means that if those who are less skilled are being abused and those less skilled people are joining together against those who are strong, he determines that in a state of nature, okay, no one's natural rights are safe. Okay? Because there is no government or laws to protect them. Okay? Which is why, since there is no government or law to protect them, he says people agree to form governments. Okay? So the people themselves say there will be a government and that government will protect us. All right. He says government does not exist until people create it. So government is a creation of people. Government as an institution is created. Okay. He says in nature, no one has the right to govern anyone else. No one is just born with that right to govern. Okay, the only way that people can get the right to govern is by consent. Meaning that the people have to agree or allow someone or something, the government, all right, to occur. That government doesn't exist unless people give their consent. And he says if a government is created without the people's consent, then it is not legitimate. So no one can just take it upon themselves to create a government or to make themselves a ruler or a president or anything. People have to give them that right. Now here's a very key point, which is very important to Locke's ideas about government. And that is that power of the government comes from the consent of the people. Very important. So there can't be government unless the people agree to it. All right, so now we're going to talk about the social contract. Okay, this agreement between the people. So Locke's problem, like many other philosophers of the time, was how do you protect each person's natural rights so that everybody can enjoy their rights? Well, he says that there's a thing called a social contract. Okay. In a social contract, each individual agrees with others to create and live under a government. And they would give that government the power to make and enforce laws. So that's very important. So I'm going to write that down so that you guys can copy it down. Okay, so the social contract, very important concept. All right, so in a social contract, everyone gives up their absolute right to do anything they want. All right, so in a social contract, individuals can't just do whatever they want. All right, so when you give up that right to do whatever you want, in return, everyone receives security from the government. All right, so I give them my right to do whatever I want, and in return, I know that the government that I created will protect me from other people's ability to take anything away from me, right? To protect my natural rights. So John Locke says that government is a better alternative than the state of nature, okay? Because in a state of nature, you might have a big fish that is trying to chomp up a little fish. All right, so these would be your rights, and the stronger person would be taking away your rights. And who knows, maybe there's an even bigger fish who's going to eat this guy. Okay, so John Locke says government is a better alternative to the state of nature. Okay, and the main purpose of government is to protect your natural rights. Okay, because in a state of nature, you can't protect your own natural rights. Okay, so to recap, you have John Locke writes a book, 2 treatises of government. In that book, he says that we have natural rights, and that these natural rights are life, liberty, and property. John Locke says that in a state of nature, we cannot protect these. So, in order for everybody to enjoy these 3 natural rights, the people give their consent or their approval to create a government. And that only when we give consent is government created. Okay? And in order to make this government efficient, the people agree on a social contract. In this social contract, individuals give up absolute right to do anything and everything they want in return for protection of their natural rights. And that is the main purpose of government. Okay? So, I hope this helps. Okay? You're reading. And I will see you guys tomorrow.